Welcome back to FlatsClass University. This is Captain C.A. Richardson, and I'm going to give you my top 5 inshore picks for the month of December. When December rolls around, the fishing is deeply entrenched by now in the winter pattern, where fish are looking for more insulating depth or some type of warm refuge, some type of temperature refuge. That might be a power plant, it might be a spring, it might be some deeper depth period. So some go offshore, some go into river systems, some use the holes in deeper creeks. But don't be intimidated by this, because there are lots of opportunities in the winter during negative tides and warm-up periods. In fact, I'm always excited when the cold weather comes. I think when the chilly weather comes, I can get you on some good rod bending action with a couple of these baits. So let's break this down bait by bait. Now, I'm going to rank the baits in what I feel is 5th through the top bait, which will be the last bait I talk about. But these are my choices. They're not necessarily rules. I want you to understand that, because you can take some of these same style baits from another brand and make them work for you. So let's start off with bait number 5 right now. Let's break it down. All right, number 5 would be the Z-Man Ned Rig, or I'm kind of torn, or it could be the Bugs Hair Jig. Both are small, non-intimidating offerings that you can cast to pretty close to the game fish themselves. I use it a lot for sight fishing. Because they're just smaller, less intimidating lures, they're perfect for this winter pattern that we're in. They're best used on post-cold front days, in my opinion, and that's because you have calm, clear water with bright blue skies. They just work excellent. You're gonna have to have longer leaders this time of year, and they're gonna have to be somewhat lighter. So sometimes I'll tie like 3, 4, and 5 foot butt sections with a little piece of bite tippet to make it work out. The rods that you're going to have to use for these lures is going to have to be something in the medium light to medium. And it's going to have to be more of a modern action. So you're going to be able to make a long cast with these lighter rods, but you've got to have that parabolic forgiveness to not straighten the hooks out. And don't be surprised if this lure makes another appearance next month, but with a little bit higher ranking than number 5. Next up is the Z-Man 3.3 Mulletron unrigged. Now this is a killer little bait because it's kind of a power finesse swim bait, if you will. And for me, at that 3.3 size, it's perfect because it mimics mud minnows and finger mullet in most estuaries and marsh systems in the month of December. It's perfect. Has a lot of versatility when it comes to rigging, whether you want to Texas rig it or if you want to rig it on a jig head, which I prefer. If you're going to rig it on a jig head, I would suggest base the jig head weight off what the depth is or the velocity of the current that you're fishing in if you happen to be in a creek or a river system. For me, the Mulletron has very little body roll, but it has that great swinging tail action. So whether you're rolling it slow or if you're speeding it up to get over the top of an oyster bar, it's still not a flashy bait. It works at a speed I think is very appealing to lethargic fish. In fact, I also believe it casts better than paddle tails, and it definitely will skip. If you have to skip it up underneath docks, it'll do a great job. Now, if you're looking for a rod for this setup, I would use anything based off your favorites that would be 7 foot to 7.5 feet. It would have to be a medium fast for me when I'm throwing it with a jig head. So if you're looking for something that can cast and you got a rod that's got some good hooking power, I think the 3.3 Mulletron is going to be one of those baits that you're going to be able to cover water on those pre-front days just before the cold front gets here. Now moving on now, this one is going to get a lot of you guys out in Texas excited. Number 3 is the Paul Brown Fat Boy in the Pro Series. This is a tournament proven lure. It's 3.5 inches long, weighs 7/8 of an ounce, has that little deeper profile, still compact and heavy, and you can make some super long casts with this bait. In fact, if gator trout is at the top of your list, this is the lure that you want as we get in these post cold front days. I love working this lure in that 2 to 4 foot depth of water most of the time, just because you've got to allow some room to work this bait. Now the bait is retrieved very slow. So it's a twitch, pause, and you got to keep that cadence up with your rod at that 10, 11 o'clock angle. What makes this a different Paul Brown Fat Boy than the OG Fat Boy from Paul Brown? Well, the Pro Series actually has a prism scaled insert in it to give it that little bit of flash. It has some premium black nickel hooks, and it also has a low frequency rattle. Almost makes it croaker or pigfish light. It really drives fish crazy, especially those big speckled trout. If you're looking for a rod to throw this lure on, it's going to have to be a medium heavy. I like a 7 foot to a 7'4" medium heavy, and I'm going to say mod fast to fast depending on the brand. Because you've got to be able to make that bait get out there, but you also, once you hook a big soft mouth gator, you've got to be able to fight that fish and keep her under control all the way to the boat without letting her roll off those treble hooks. So think, yeah, it's got to be a heavier action, but it's got to have a little bit of parabolic nature to it. All right, next up is one of my personal longtime favorites that I start using this time of year, and you're about to find out why. The Catch Junior from Mirrolure. This is the 22 MR. It is the lesser bait to the Catch 2000, and it's been around just as long. It is one fish catching bait, if you ask me. The thing that makes the Catch Junior so effective is the fact that it has a near neutral buoyancy. So you can fish it extremely slow in very, very shallow water. So when the water's really cold and fish are sunning up on a mud flat, or they get into some shallow potholes on a sunny shoreline protected from a north wind, this is the lure that you want to throw. Compact size, casts great, casts like a bullet in fact. Lands softly, and that little twitch cadence really makes this darting action so subtle, almost like a sub walk underneath the water. I work this often in less than 2 feet of water and does a fantastic job of tantalizing reds and trout. If you love the Mirrodine, which is one of the most popular profiles of all time at Mirrolure, I guarantee you the Catch Junior is going to have major appeal to you. Like I said, work her slow. She will nearly just float and suspend in the water. She's not a negative bait. Now, the rod you're going to need for this is a 7 foot to 7'3" medium action. That's what works the best for me. I liked it to be fast because I like those sharp twitches, but I need enough hooking power because you catch a lot of redfish doing this. So I favor the fast action over the mod fast in this one. All right, what you've been waiting for, my #1 recommendation for the month of December. Well, here it is. And the #1 recommendation for the month of December, it is a 4-inch Z-Man scented jerk shad on a shroom's head. That's important for you to know because you're going to need that upright posture. That's the real deal in this recommendation, is the fact that I put it with a mushroom head. It keeps the bait standing straight up on the bottom and waving its tail. Being a scented bait should not shock you because you're going to be working this bait very slowly, and the scent is going to, well, help its appeal out to the fish that are sitting there on the bottom. Now this works out really good on the chilliest days when these fish are locked down in holes. You just toss that jerk shad into the hole and let it sit there on the bottom for like a 3-4 second count. literally count it. And then you're just gonna gently pop the rod with a real short twitch so that it only hops maybe 6 to 12 inches off the bottom and then rights itself again, and then you're gonna wait 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, and you're gonna do it again. If you do that, you will absolutely wear fish out this time of year on those cold days. When you're bundled up in a jacket and you need to fish slow, this is the way to do it. Now, the lure color you're seeing is a color that I use in clear water situations where I live to get her done. But typically, the best ones to use in the wintertime for most off color or deeper hole situations are going to be white, pink, and chartreuse. They are absolute fish catchers. Now, I can't impress upon you guys more that this technique is going to require you to tie a direct connect knot right to that mushroom head so you feel that little light tap, because the bite detection is so hard on those cold days. And I encourage you to use the thinnest braid you can get. I use diamond micro braid. You use what you want to. I'm using it in the 10 and 15 pound class, which really feels like about 6 or 8 pound from anyone else. And it does an unbelievable job of detecting bites, and it'll jerk the slack out real quick. If you're gonna throw this, throw it on a 7 to 7.5 foot, I'm gonna say medium fast rod. That's what's gonna work best for this setup. Without saying any more, if you think that this type of info is really helping you out and you want to learn more about mastering artificial lures, come join me at FlatsClassUniversity.com, where I can help you even more with more structure and more detail in our courses. Until next time, I'll be back here tomorrow with another how-to video.